Nita, you were in employment law, and I know you speak to lawyers. Were you this aware already in the employment law part of your career, or did some of that kind of spur on a, kind of a search for how to deal with life's problems and how to deal with workplace situations, and like how did those two come together for you?
I love this question because the answer is another one of those things that is kind of quirky and fun. There was this guy, and I was dating him, and I really liked him. And I'd heard of meditation, but I didn't really know anything about it. And I was practicing law at the time. And he said, "You want to sit?" And I said, "You want to what?" And he meant, "Do you want to meditate?" And that's how it started. I started meditating with him. But um, I was having difficulty at work because this is so crazy. I don't like conflict. I'm not good in conflict situations. There are people that that thrive on it, that really can
Mm-hmm.
tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
It is not good for my nervous system. It is. I've learned to walk through it, but it's just not something I'm going to put myself in a daily basis anymore. And so I was facing that. And then as a result, probably of all that, I was having horrible back issues. My back would go out all the time. And through the meditation, because of some of the things I learned by different meditators I wound up studying with, I found a solution to my back pain and ways to be more effective at my job and be able to tolerate it. I ended up leaving the practice of law. I probably should have been on medication a long time before I was. It was the early 90s, and it wasn't quite as, we just weren't in there yet.
Right.
Just didn't have enough information. And it was such a bad job fit. It just really was. I mean, I was good at it. I was a partner. I did, but the toll was too much. So I did end up leaving, and I left as a result of a major depressive episode, which the nervous breakdown is what they might call it. And so in that, it was sort of like the caterpillar has to turn to goop before they come out on the other side and become, the butterfly that can fly. And that's what it felt. I had to go all the way to goop and end up hospitalized in treatment. But through that, I found the power of meditation because it kept me grounded. It kept me centered. It kept me learning these skills to focus. And so, I think what I was, as opposed to aware, was hypervigilant. And that's different from the type of focus that you learn in meditation. And so that's actually something I work with. Is I have too much, you might call it jittery focus. Whereas in meditation, we want a little bit calmer focus. And I've worked on that, it's been 30 years now. So it's much, much better. But every once in a while, I still have that situation. So I brought to it my natural tendency to be a hyper aware person.
Right.
For me to pick up on, the raised eyebrow, the tiny tilt of the head, the little tiny cues that some people don't get. And we might call it emotional intelligence. Some people might call it that. But I didn't know how to use those strengths. I now see them as strengths. I didn't know how to use them, and they became kind of detrimental. But it made me meditation interesting to me because I already had kind of that ability to be awake to all of that.
No, I find that kind of interesting on a lot of different levels. But what I'm a little bit confused about, and I'll ask for your coaching, it was a big thing that caused you to move into this idea of what meditation is all about and caused you to kind of change things around. Like I said, things happened in life, it became a big issue. Yet, though, you talk a little bit about tiny actions lead to audacious results. They lead to huge. Can you kind of coach me on that a little bit?
Sure. So the problem, or let's not call it a problem, the lack of skill that I had that caused me to leave the practice of law was the inability to it was like a denial thing, I think. I kept thinking, if I just worked harder, if I just could make myself tolerate this. I went into the whole manifest your destiny kind of stuff, and listened to a lot of different thought leaders about, feel your fear and do it anyway. And I did that. And unfortunately, I think I have deep wounds from that, because so there's the tiny actions that I could have taken was listening to myself and getting help much sooner, because I just kept thinking that I could. I mean, I came from a family of people that were really hard workers, and I grew up on a farm, and so you just worked harder. That's what you did. If the post would not go on the ground, you got a bigger sledgehammer and you hit it harder. That's just what we did. And so that did not work for me. So when I learned about the tiny actions leading to audacious results was when I started running, and that was many years later, many years later. I'd been writing. I had been in and out of different types of employment arrangements, things like that. And the training plan that a friend of mine was doing, that I eventually looked up without telling the whole story, which is in the first book, Depression is a Moving Target. It said 60 seconds of jogging. It did not say 2 minutes. It did not say running. It didn't even say 1 minute. It said 60 seconds. And at that point in my life, that was when I left the practice of law, that was the most dangerous, dark place I've ever been in. But I came to another dangerous, dark place. I would say it was the second most dangerous, dark place. And that was in 2007, kind of through 2009, which is when I saw this social media post by this friend who said, this running is getting to be fun. And I thought, those words don't go together. Run, fun, nope, they don't. Those do not, nope, don't go together. So I looked up her plan after a while, and there was something about that just made me think, I think I can do that. And so that step, again, chunking it down of putting on my ancient sweatpants I hadn't had on in forever, digging the shoes out of the back of the closet, leashing up the dog, walking down to this hidden ravine area, very beautiful ravine area near where I live, because nobody could see me. And then, taking my digital timer and setting it for 60 seconds and just jogging, it set in motion. It didn't fix everything, obviously, but it set in motion a series of other steps. And I think overwhelm, I know it's a problem for me. It's a big problem for a lot of people. Just that sense that everything is too much. I think, especially after the pandemic and so many things changing, and the way we work has changed, and there's just so much. People are still very overwhelmed and continue to be overwhelmed. And so that's why I just really emphasize tiny little steps, tiny little things. Because what is a phone call made of? But you have to call somebody. Yeah. It's not talking to them immediately. First, you pick up the phone, and then you dial the number, and then you listen to the ring. It's these steps. And so if I can slow things down like that, even if I'm not doing them slowly, if I can chunk them into those parts, they're just not as overwhelming. And as someone who's, a highly anxious leader, let's just say, that kind of thing really, really helps me.
Good.